Hi, I
Hello.
am Maya Skolny, and I'm incredibly privileged to be interviewing you. I firstly wanted to say congratulations. The film is incredibly poignant, fascinating, complex, so huge well done on that
Thank you.
count. And I also wanted to extend my condolences to you. I recognize that the director and I believe the writer of the film recently passed away, Boris Gerets.
In
Um, yeah,
in
in
March.
March.
Yeah.
In March.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering on that note, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about Boris and how he came to be connected to this project, from what you understand.
Yes, I will. I will try to explain that. It goes back like 4 or 5 years. Well, even before that, I've I was a researcher at a television program, and I found the village of Pomfret on the internet. I never went there. I only found a small text about the story of the 32nd Battalion living in Pomfret. So, and I was looking for a director. I'm a producer, so I was looking for a director for that story because I thought this is a fantastic, incredible arena, location to make an very, yeah, a lot of history comes together, a lot of, yeah, currents come together in this village in the Kalahari desert. So, on ITFA in 2015, I think, our festival here in Amsterdam, I saw his film Shadow Man, and another one, People I Could Have Been and Maybe Am. I don't know if you know these films. They're incredible. They're beautiful. Shadow Man was shot during nights in Freetown in Sierra Leone, um, with handicapped people living on the streets. It's a diabolic film, but it's very strong in atmosphere and in yeah, well, the story is told in a fantastic way. So after seeing that film, I thought I need Boris for doing this, and so I talked with him, and within he was thrilled by the story, but in like 2 3 weeks after our first meeting, he came up with the idea to combine the story of the village with the Gospel of Judas. So
Wow.
that's fantastic. And after that, we immediately the financing of the film was quite easy. I mean, many people. He's a very well-known artist and filmmaker here he was in the Netherlands. Yeah.
That was actually going to be one of my upcoming questions, which was around the funding. I know
Yeah.
that you've just said it was very easy. So I understand that wasn't a challenge for you.
Not really, no, no, and even I mean, working with Boris opens a lot of doors, and even internationally, we found Arte in France joining us, and it will be shown on Arte in I think in December, and Dutch television was joining easily, and the film fund, the broadcast funds. It was not a problem. And first, we went into the development stage. You have to do that in two stages. I don't know if you're familiar with that. First, you go for the research, and we traveled a lot together. I've been with Boris with Boris 2 times, and the last time, last March, I went alone to show the film to the village.
Sure, yeah, because the story of the 32 Battalion Unit
Yeah.
is not one that is told often or even at all in South Africa. And so I was really struck when watching the film um, about this kind of gap in information. And I wonder, I've got a two-part question. The one is around how did you access the information, the research, what records, what documents, and what was that process like? And then I'll have a follow-up question about the reason that you feel it's important to tell the story.
Yes. We started our research with a woman who works with the university in Johannesburg. What's the name again?
Wits
Yeah,
University.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wits University. They have a huge archive and even transcripts of interviews with people with the 32nd Battalion, and they gave us access to these transcripts. We were able to read them, but very soon we had the opportunity to go there, to go to Pomfret ourselves and meet the people, and that was amazing. It was really amazing. It was shocking and amazing. I mean, this village is it's the end of the world, and it's horrible how the people live. It's totally.
So it sounds like you came across the story almost by chance, and then you were very interested, intrigued, and then you found information as you went on. At what point did you think to yourself, this is a story I need to tell to the world, or who was your intended audience?
Who was my intended audience? Well, first of all, I think during the first stage, we directed our audience was Dutch, I think, in the beginning. I think this is also a story. It needs to be told in the Netherlands. It's even though it's over there and it's far away on the other side of the planet, but it's the theme and the about guilt and about people who are people, and so you don't need to be the devil to end up on the wrong side of history, and that's a story we need to tell in the Netherlands. In the first place, but I think internationally, I think this film it has a huge international how do you say that audience. It needs an international audience.
Yeah, because I think you're touching on one of the key themes. There are many themes that come up here, and something that I was really thinking about was this kind of tension between abiding by what you're told to do by authority and also your conscience. And I know that balance is so painful, it's so challenging, and definitely has global significance, as you mentioned.
And it's very interesting that you say that. I mean, that's for me, it's we living in this Western European, North European country, we are very wealthy. We have all the, we have a lot of choice in our lives. We have plenty of choice in our lives. And for us, it's very easy. We never came in this situation, especially my generation. We never had a war. We never had to fight for our lives. We never had to make decisions what these guys had to make in their youth, or they didn't even had a choice sometimes. They were forced into this army. And that's something. What last week we had the premiere in Amsterdam here, and after that there were a lot of discussion. A lot of people were talking about this, that it's so easy for us to judge because we never had this this life-changing, life-threatening decision to make. So that's very important, I think, for our audience here, and
absolutely.
That's
and I think that's really important that it's recognized, that it's not just something that is for an Angolan audience or a South African audience, but actually that the themes cut across. And it kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you've read the Perils of Obedience by Stanley Milgram. I think you'd find it interesting. Clearly,
Perils of
the Perils of Obedience. I'm a teacher, and it's a text that I have gone through with my students, and it's clear that regardless of where someone comes from, these questions will come up around what decision do you make? And as you said, some people don't have the opportunity to make a decision when they get compelled to go into these really, really, really harsh circumstances. And I'm wondering about whether there was a particular story that for you as the producer stuck out, affected you personally. I know for myself, there was the story about, I think his name was Romeo,
Oh, yeah, everybody knows
who,
Father Mayo. Yeah.
yeah, who was very young, clearly, when he was forced. He tried to get out and he wasn't able to.
And he had to solve the problem of the priest. Actually, I mean, the
Yes.
priest said, "If you're not going, then they will catch me." And so he, as a child, had to go. Yeah, some sort of responsibility for that age, I think.
Yes.
Not too much.
How did you connect up with that community? I know you said that you went there, you spoke to people. Were they open to the idea of doing a project, a film initially? How did that work?
It worked fantastic. I mean, of course, that was a serious worry we had when we started. Will these people understand what they are joining in? Do they understand the implications of this, what they are dealing with? And it was Boris went there. I think he went 4 times there, and I joined him twice. And he was there also. He lived among them. He was there, I
Oh,
think, one
wow.
good period of time. He stayed there for 1 month, together with Jose, who is also he's a former member of the 32nd Battalion, but he was our guide. He was the person who got us into this society, and he is very loved and respected in this society. So. And Boris lived among them in these shacks, these old houses, and stayed there and did his thing. And he visited people, ate with them, and there was the people they were very extremely open and cooperative, which was fantastic. And we promised them the afterwards we were worried, would they understand would they understand the film, would they see what the film was about. So we thought it was very important to show the film after Boris finished the film. So in last March we planned to go there together, but Boris was too sick to join, so I went there alone. And we had this fantastic screening on the football field in the middle of this village with a beamer and with hundreds of people. and
From across Pomfret.
In Pomfret, yeah. In the middle of the village, we had together with Nick, the cameraman, who was with me, and Mohau joined me, and it was the people were emotioned. They were really touched by the story, and they thanked me and us, Boris, that we were willing to share the story with the rest of the world. They really said that it's so important that this story needs to be told. So I have a complete trust that they are very happy with this film.
Yeah, and I wonder for them, and I'm sure you have insight on this, whether it was a cathartic experience as well, kind of going through the process, not only, of course, of speaking, but also of acting, of like recreating that scene with the scenes of Judas.
Yeah, the people were very proud of it, and proud that they were joining in, and that they were in the film. And I think in a way, but I mean that's not something that you hear explicitly from them. That it's how do you say that?
Cathartic.
I cannot judge that, but I have a feeling that they were very happy and very proud of being part of this film. I'm still in contact with Jonas, the actor who played Judas, and he's telling me that they're very happy that they joined. It's a life-changing experience, and he's waiting that Hollywood is finding him, but I cannot promise that.
Just in terms of that creative process, because the film did have all of these interesting components. It had the interviews, but then also the scenes with the acting, and then the beautiful shots with kind of the text and the poetry and the verses overlaying. How did you come to that kind of aesthetic, that decision of how the documentary would look, would feel? Did it just happen organically? Did you know from the get-go?
Well, I mean, that's something you should have asked Boris. It was from the beginning. Actually, it was quite early that we knew what the film would look like. And after when he came up with the idea of combining these two stories, he 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 went there and he stayed there in the village. And while he was there, he wrote the voiceovers on the spot,
I was going to
talking
ask you
with
that.
people.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And there are some parts coming from the Gospels, but mostly it's Boris lyrics. It's Boris words, and
Beautiful.
it's really really beautiful. It's so powerful and
Yeah.
meaningful. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
And for you as a producer, had you done that kind of film before? Is this what you're used to, kind of having quasi-documentary, different kind of creative elements, or was it a new process for you?
It was a new process for me. It was an this is a unique experience. This combination is the combination of this hybrid form, like the fiction scenes and the documentary scenes. I've never done that before. I like it very much. I like it really. I like those kinds of films, but no, this was the first one I did. The first one on this scale, especially.
Yeah.
When we were there doing the fiction scenes, it was so impressive. Almost the whole village were joining us, were working with us, and like hundreds of people were there, and it was a huge fiction set. And no, I know I was not used to that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about as well in terms of the acting. Where most of them, they hadn't been actors, they hadn't acted before. Sorry, and how did they get trained for those scenes? What was it also like kind of organic, or how many practice rounds? Who took them through it?
It's Boris' work. He in the time that he was there on alone, he spent a lot of time with Jonas and with Raphael, Jesus, and they talked about it. They watched films. Boris showed them. I think he showed them the Gospel of Matteo of Pasolini. I don't know if you know that film. It's a beautiful film.
I'm going to write all these down, all the names that you've mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a beautiful film, and this is an inspiration for Boris as well. But and he was watching with them. He was playing scenes in Pomfret with them, and as rehearsal. But the rest is Boris' work and incredible talent at Judas and Jesus. They are fantastic actors. They were so in their role. If you look at the final scene when they're standing together at the well and talk about their friendship, and that Jonas is asking, "Why do I have to do that?" That's incredible.
Yeah. So powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, there were also scenes, especially in the interview scenes, that were really painful. Like, I mean, the people speaking about their experiences were talking about kind of their heart aching and what they've gone through. I wonder what their future holds. I don't know what your sense is of what the future of Pomfret is. It's because the repercussions of their involvement seem to be, still hanging over their lives.
We had in March, when I showed the film in Pomfret, we had a screening in the bioscope in Fox Street in Johannesburg for the crew and some colleagues. There was Riyad. Do you know Riyad?
The star?
Yeah. Riyad, the filmmaker.
Yeah.
He comes from a family with a lot of ANC people, and his father was, I think, quite close to Mandela, I think, and he was raised with the idea that the 32nd Battalion, these are the Nazis, these are the devils of
the traitors.
Yeah, the traitors. And when he left the cinema, he came to me and he said, "They are fucking people." He said, "This is incredible." He was really shocked that he felt sympathy or empathy for these guys that he could not imagine before watching this film. But what the future of these people? This I don't know. I mean, the only thing we hope to do is that give this film a proper release in South Africa. That's something we really want to work on. It needs to have a serious release throughout the country. And
yeah, and I think you're speaking about also that question of redemption of people, or at least people's perception shifting. People like
yeah,
Desai, who you mentioned, could
yeah,
watch that film and be connected to it and recognize the complexities actually that are quite different to perhaps what was previously perceived about them.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's what we are. That's what I'm working on now. That's my priority now.
Do you plan on when the lockdown ends, coming back to South Africa perhaps?
I would
And
love to. Really, I would love to, but I'm stuck here on this side of the planet.
yeah, who knows how long that will be.
Yeah.
If you think about the process, I know it sounds like there were all these different components and these different layers. What would you say was the most challenging as a producer in relation to this project?
The most challenging, yeah, all of it was a challenge, especially also because Boris and I, we right from the beginning, 5 years ago, his cancer started. So he all the process through, he was in the chemo and then working again, chemo, working again, and we were the first time we went there, he could hardly eat. So that was
Wow.
also a very challenging situation to keep him going, and he wanted to go. He had so much energy getting from the working on this film. That
Wow.
was incredible. It was
Yeah.
I will never. That's something. It comes. I mean, that makes this process even more important than any other film I made.
Yeah, because clearly he committed to it, and despite the difficulties and the health challenges that he was going through, he saw it.
Yeah.
He saw it come to fruition, and then I saw that at the beginning of the film, it's actually dedicated to him,
Yeah.
in loving memory of him, and so I imagine that adds an extra value to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really special.
Yeah.
So just, I know we've only got 2 minutes left,
It's
or
true.
2 minutes or so.
Yeah.
For other people who are aspiring producers of films or producers of documentaries, what is your key recommendation, your key piece of advice, or anyone who is aspiring to be involved in the documentary world, whether it be related to research or writing or directing?
You mean some sort of an advice?
Yeah, any advice, any thoughts, recommendations?
Yeah. Well, it's two advice. No, one. I think stick to your story. Believe in your story. That sounds very maybe too shallow, but that's, I think, if there is something to say in general about this profession, making documentaries, making films, I think because it's really hard. It takes 5 years to get a film like this. So believe in the story. You only can make that. You can only keep that going if you believe in your own story. I mean, all the films I make, they have some sort of thing in common, which is that I'm inspired by these stories and I believe in the stories. And
Yeah.
that makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. Um, Clearly, you are very connected to this story. Do you
Yeah.
know if I don't know if you're able to speak about any upcoming projects that you're working on, anything that you'd like the audience to know about in relation to your work, any stories that interest you at the moment?
I'm working on a vanishing of a sailing ship with 8 young people in the Netherlands. The ship disappeared on the North Sea. Never 5 years ago it left, and some people have survived it, but 3 of the people and the ship disappeared, and everything is filmed on the ship. They filmed it themselves with an iPhone, and we have this material, and we are in the middle of making that film. Another film I want to make is about soldier mothers, which is
Okay, mothers of soldiers who have
mothers
fought.
of yeah, who lost their sons on at the front in Russia, specifically in Russia. Will that be? Yeah, well, it's very broad
Oh,
what I'm doing, but
yeah, but
but
all human
human,
centered stories.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
And
It's
I'd
not
imagine,
not too much into journalism. It's more human interest.
yeah,
That's where I am, I think.
yeah. And for the Lamentations of Judas, I'm imagining that for the family members, the community members that you mentioned earlier,
Yeah,
this is something that is meaningful, powerful to them as well. So it was human-centered, focused on the individuals interviewed and who acted, but also their families, their mothers.
yeah,
So yeah, huge well done again. I know that it's been a long haul.
yeah.
I really look forward to seeing the response in the South African
Me
um,
too.
communities, the South African society about this bigger conversation.
I would love to. I would really. I'm very curious what happens. It will be shown on Wednesday, I think. Eh? What I think, the 24th or something.
Yeah,
This 26th. So
next week.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really look forward to hear what the film is doing in South Africa.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well. Thank you so much for your time. I know I'm sure you're very busy, but I appreciate it. It was great to hear some more about your insights, your experiences, and um, yeah, we'll see what comes next.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.